Welcome, everyone, to another edition of Clubhouse Picks brought to you by Godzilla Wins. I'm your host, Jack Fredericks, editor of Godzilla Wins, where you can get all your sports picks and predictions on everything from the NBA, which has just concluded, to the UFC. I am here with my co-host, as always, Nate Perry. We're going to talk, Nate, this week about the US Open.
Yes.
Huge week for our majors. This is coming off the heels of the RBC, which we'll talk about as well. We'll do a little update on the LIV Partnership with the PGA Tour as that continues to unfold. And of course, we'll talk about our incredible picks for the week. Before we do that, though, Nate, we got to thank one of our incredible partners, Birch Gold. This podcast does not exist without the support of our partners, especially Birch Gold. Inflation has consequences. As the Fed raises interest rates to combat out-of-control government spending, long-term bonds have diminished in value, crippling the banks. Depositors are holding their breath and investors are bailing on bank stocks, but diversification has never been more important. So the recent surge in gold prices is directly tied to the extreme market volatility right now. We see that in the market every single day. Extremely volatile, which is why historically gold, precious metals, silver, all that stuff has been a good hedge against the stock market and against inflation. Inflation has been a big topic and will continue to be a big topic as we become embroiled in yet another recession. If you are not diversifying, Nate, in precious metals or in gold, then you have to do that. And I do not trust my diversification, my portfolio in precious metals to anyone else other than the Birch Gold Group. That's because Birch Gold makes it so easy to convert an IRA or 401k into an IRA in precious metals. So here's what you need to do. Text Godzilla. That's Godzilla to 989898. That's Godzilla to 989898 to get your free info kit on gold. They're going to help you convert your existing IRA or 401k that's tied to a volatile market into an IRA in physical precious metals. Sorry about that. So go ahead and text Godzilla to 989898. to claim your free info kit on gold today with an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau and thousands of happy customers. You cannot get better than the Birch Gold Group. Godzilla 989898. Today, we always want to thank Birch Gold for sponsoring us and partnering with us to bring you some of the most cerebral sports picks of 2023 here, especially for the PGA Tour. So, Nate, we're coming off the heels of the RBC Canadian Open, which was, of course, overshadowed by the LIV PGA Tour partnership. However, the tournament got what it deserved, which was an exciting, really an incredible and exciting finish. So basically, coming down the 18th hole, we had Aaron Rai and I believe Tyrrell Hatton at 16 under. And then Canadian Nick Taylor posts a 17 under after birdieing the 17th, comes up on the 18th, which is historically like a pretty easy birdie hole, especially because they changed it to a par 5, even though it kind of plays like a par 4. So he birdies that. He's at 17 under. Canada's going nuts. But Tommy Fleetwood, who has never won a PGA Tour event, birdies, I think, 17. That gets him to 16 under. And then he birdies 18. So he forces the playoff with Nick Taylor, and they end up in a 4-hole shootout that included three playoff holes on the 18th, one on the par 3 17th. It was kind of a wild playoff because at one point Fleetwood hit it into the grandstand, which was nuts. He missed a very short putt to win on the 17th for the third playoff hole. Nick Taylor kind of hung around. I mean, we all know Fleetwood is just talent-wise the better golfer there, but it felt like Nick Taylor's tournament. How do you feel about this win for Canada? First time in almost 100, like since 1954, since the Canadian has won the RBC Canadian Open.
I mean, a huge win for Canada, and like good for Nick Taylor. I mean, I felt bad for Tommy Fleetwood. You know, a lot of people in sort of the online betting community were on Fleetwood. This looked like a good tournament for him. And nobody was really giving like Nick Taylor a chance, even as he was sort of closing really strong at the end. I mean, you and me were sort of talking about it. And it's like, there's no way Nick Taylor wins this. But like, this is his third tour title, so like Nick Taylor can win, has won, done it before, done it more than Tommy Fleetwood, who's never won it at all on the PGA Tour. So like, from that perspective, I guess like we just weren't giving Nick Taylor sort of the credit he deserves. Although obviously he's not been playing the same level of golf as Fleetwood, but huge moment for Canada. Adam Hadwin getting tackled by security and then apologizing for spraying champagne. Classic Canadian moment. I mean, it was cool.
The Hadwin form tackle by security is pretty incredible. That went around Twitter, of course. We love that. We love to see that. And I mean, I'm glad that the USGA sent him a vest. It's kind of funny because like there were a lot of people on the green celebrating, and I'm just I know the champagne, maybe it looked really aggressive. And I mean, also sad for Adam Hadwin that security can't recognize him. I doubt if Tyrrell
after playing for 4 days there.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know who this guy is.
I doubt if like Rory McIlroy or Tyrrell Hatton was out there spraying champagne, he would have got form tackled, but poor Adam Hadwin just got absolutely blitzed by this security who just came out of nowhere. And like, as a guy who
like
has
swim moves around Nick Taylor and his caddy embracing, like you see him getting low, like he's going around an offensive tackle.
Yeah. Having worked security, for a number of years at a bar that we both worked at in Reno, that's kind of one of the ways we know each other. I can tell you that moment is so common among guys who work security, because basically when you work security, you're just sitting around waiting for that moment. I mean, the whole I would imagine 4 days working security at the PGA is just a lot of like, hey, back up. You're just walking up to people being like, back up, or just like, hey, you can't throw that there. Pick it up, throw it in the trash. And then you get your just moment to shine when this nut job comes charging onto the 18th green after a 4-hole playoff
with a magnum of champagne.
Yeah, just soaking everyone in champagne. And you're thinking, here it is. This is why they hired me. This is what I trained for. I'm taking him down. He is not getting close to Nick Taylor. And then the slow-mo reaction of Nick Taylor and his caddy, who were like, what the hell?
Who were both like staring at it happen.
Yeah.
And neither of them immediately respond.
Tough day for the security guy, but I understand where he's coming from completely. Look, Taylor sunk a 72-foot putt to win that tournament.
Yeah.
I love Tommy Fleetwood, but he would never have been able to do that. I mean, he's been showing time and time again throughout his career that he does not have the gumption to win tournaments. And I hate it.
He got tied on 18 for sure when he was coming up, because he was tied for the lead going into 18. And he made a pretty bad par. And it looked like, this was his to lose. Everybody been birding 18. And that he couldn't get it done after 2 pretty loose shots was not good. Not a good look.
Yeah. You should have corrected me earlier. I couldn't remember. So he birdied like 16 then. I know he birdied 17. And then you're right, coming up 18, he looked tight. And he played 18 rough in those playoff holes too. It's an easy hole, especially for a guy as accurate as he is. It's a par 4 playing like a par 5. I mean, they birdied it the first time out. The second time he smacks it in the grandstand. But what killed me was he had a short putt on the fringe on the 3rd playoff hole on 17 to win. Taylor had already, I think, he had missed the putt because he was out. So all he had to do was sink. I mean, God, maybe 10 feet. It was so close. And Fleetwood is not a mess with the flat stick. I mean, he's
a good putter. He's having like a historically, like for him, he's having like one of the greatest years of his career with a putter.
It's one of the reasons he was in that position in the first place, and he just fell apart. And you hate to see that for a guy who we all want to win tournaments. Everyone who watches golf wants to see Fleetwood win golf tournaments. He's an incredible player, and he's great for handicapping because he doesn't win. He's a lot like Finau, who finally did get a win, where he kind of hovers in the sometimes 30 to 40 range. And you think that's a great price for a guy who is just an incredible golfer and usually, is always in the top 10, doesn't miss cuts, except for a couple years, like around the COVID time when he was kind of struggling. But for the most part, he's always been really strong. So tough to see that from Fleetwood. Great to see it from Nick Taylor. I personally had Aaron Rye and Tyrrell Hatton finish 16 under and tie for second in both my outright and DFS. So that was a little frustrating for me, but good for everyone who had Nick or Fleetwood.
And I had Justin Rose, who snuck up into the lead briefly and then hit it in the water with a iron trying to lay up. That's the second week in a row that's happened to me. So we talked about that for a second too, but that's all.
He finished T8.
Yeah.
And he was surging. And yeah, dumped it in the water in 14. How'd that feel for you?
It hurt a lot. I mean, it's the second week in a row that I've had a guy that's like really in contention, either in the lead or a shot back on the back nine at a good price. And then Siwoo did it the week before, laying up off the tee with an iron, dumped it in a creek. And then Justin Rose, dumped his sort of just in like an unknown area, like they just couldn't find it. So he had to go back and retee because they couldn't even confirm that it was actually in the hazard. So it's just annoying. It's just like, and then he rips driver for his provisional just into the rough 80 yards from the green. And it's like, why do we hit 4 iron the first time then?
Yeah. And on Sunday, it's like, what are you like doing making those weird club choices?
Like, you have to make birdies like
3 times.
Fucking hit it. Yeah.
I
don't know.
Yeah, I understand. That's rough. Look, it was rough for me too. I mean, Nick Taylor was a good win for anyone, 75-1, but Aaron Rye at 90-1. I mean, the way he was playing, I felt like in a playoff, come on. I mean, he could win a playoff hole. Are you kidding me? As accurate as he was, like you go one, like a down to the wire, 1-to-1, like one-on-one playoff hole with Tyrrell Hatton, who I love and is an elite putter, is incredible. But I had both of them, so I was frustrated that I couldn't get either one in the playoff. Nick Taylor gets to 17, then of course Fleetwood. So frustrating week for both of us, but I still think anyone who had Taylor should be really proud and happy. That's a difficult one to nail at 75-1 for a Canadian who hasn't won the tournament since 54. But man, oh man, I feel pretty proud of the Rye pick because that not everybody was on that. I mean, sometimes you're on guys that everybody's on and you think, oh, okay, well, they finished in the top 5, but like 95% of the articles I read had them. I mean, just, I don't know. I thought I was even lukewarm on pick and ride at the beginning. And, one of the things with someone like him that you have to know, he's a short course god and he's accurate as all hell. And if you need someone to hit fairways, he's your man. So, keep that in mind if you like him. Okay. So Nate, let's talk really quickly then about LIV and the PGA. Last week, of course, we talked for about 20 minutes about our initial thoughts on the partnership. Just update our listeners on what's going on with the LIV PGA partnership. What have we learned since then? And kind of just your overall feeling of where this is going since we've had a week to think about it.
I mean, I'm still conflicted. I guess my opinion is softening a little bit as more news comes out and I've sort of been able to sit with it. I don't feel as disappointed for Jay Monahan. I just sort of feel sorry for everyone involved. Like it sucks. And it sucks that it just turned into a money battle that they just couldn't win, right? They're like Saudi Arabian government, PIF, Yasser Al-Rumayyan, whoever just decided like, we want to get involved in golf and there's no amount of money that's going to stop us. And that's basically what happened. Right. And I guess that's like disappointing that it can come to that or that that's possible. So that's one aspect of it. On the other hand, like it sounds like the guys from the PGA Tour are going to get taken care of. Jimmy Dunn's been talking about some sort of equity package that'll be available to them as the sort of PGA Tour brand is able to grow. They'll be able to receive some share of profits from the sort of umbrella company that's a for-profit holding. We'll be able to divvy to them. So, that sounds good. The LIV guys obviously aren't going to be eligible for that, even if they participate on the PGA Tour again. Sounds like LIV is probably going to fold. So, from those perspectives, it sounds like we're getting back to normalcy. That it took $4 billion from the Saudi Arabian government to get there sucks, basically.
Yeah. I also, so the equity thing is an interesting angle. I don't know. Okay. So like equity and like, what does that shake out? Everyone who has a tour card who didn't go to LIV, or is it just the top 15 players?
I'm sure they'll probably do it on some ranking like they do the PIP stuff, top of the PIP gets X% on down the line.
Chesson Hadley was quoted as saying he is I think either wanted equity or wants to be rewarded for staying, which is sort of interesting because he's not a guy that you ever think about. Although Chesson Hadley, I mean, he earns his official tournament earnings throughout his career is over $10 million. It's not like he doesn't play golf.
Yeah,
but
I mean, like, I get that, but like, also, like, Chesson Hadley and Grayson Murray weren't getting contract offers from LIV.
yeah,
They just like don't have any brand. Like, you know, guys like Pat Perez got offers, but like Pat Perez has a brand. Like Chesson Hadley does not. So like, I don't know what they were like turning down.
yeah. I mean, they just want some of the money that's being infused. Here's my thing, and I said this on the radio on Saturday, and I'll keep saying it because to me, I think it's the most important thing that everybody needs to keep in mind. If the DOJ allows this deal to go through, which they probably will, then I believe that the PGA Tour should lose its tax exempt status, much like the NFL had lost its, and they should be taxed at the corporate tax rate. If the Saudi government is going to infuse $4 billion into the American economy, then I want the government to take their share, considering it is the Saudi government. It's not some sort of, it's not Aramco. I mean, it is sort of, I guess, but it's not like an LLC or a corporation that's like creating a ton of jobs in Ohio that weren't there before. They are going to make rich people more rich, and they're doing it because they want to diversify their own portfolio as the major nation state fund in Saudi Arabia. You want to do that, that's fine. If Norway wanted to buy the NFL, Norway has the biggest pension fund in the world. If they wanted to come in and buy the NFL to diversify their earnings, diversify their portfolio, then that's totally fine as well. Go for it. But we're going to tax you at 30%, and we're going to take what is ours.
Yeah, well, and it's not like there's like money coming out of the pockets of the little guy too if they're having to pay that corporate tax. Like I worked as a paid employee for a PGA Tour event here in Reno, and the people that were getting paid to run that golf tournament were me and 3 other guys. It was 4 people, 4 paid employees, all the rest volunteers. So it's not like, oh, we're hurting the little guy here, the blue collar guy. Like there's nobody that like the PGA Tour pays to do anything like at that
Yeah.
point.
Yeah, you're right. The only argument to keep their tax exempt status is that the PGA, when they go in and they do an event, they infuse a ton of money into local golf courses. That's a pledge that they've always made. Like, for instance, in Tulsa, after the PGA Championship, which was held there 2 years ago, I think now, the PGA Tour invested, I don't know, something like $1 million into the Tulsa sort of golf community, something like that. And they infused a bunch of money into like municipal courses that everybody can play. That's great for the game of golf, and I'm glad that they do that. They can also do that and be taxed. So the argument that they can't do both is like ridiculous. The NFL does that kind of stuff all the time. So I just feel like if you're going to take this money, then the American government should be able to take its share as well. But we will continue to monitor the situation, of course, just like everybody else. It's really interesting. And I'm sure in the future, like some of this stuff I'm interested in just from a financial standpoint, but what I'm really interested in, and I'm sure what you are, is how this shapes the game of golf going forward, what the LIV Tour looks like, what those elevated events look like. That's all going to change by next year. So we'll have a lot to say about that.
Yeah.
Another thing, Nate, that I have a lot to say about which I never shut up about, is Beard Vet coffee. Nate, this is the best coffee I've ever had. I mean, just hands down. Beard Vet coffee, when you order Beard Vet coffee, it comes so quickly. Like you go on the website, beardvet.com, you just go to beardvet.com, you put in the promo code Godzilla, you get 10% off your coffee needs. That's the first thing you do. They have tons of different options. I like the darker roasts because I drink a lot of coffee. I'll drink maybe 6 to 8 cups of coffee a day. I'll make about 12 cups. I mean, it sits in the pot all day long. I buy the whole bean. When they get here, I said this before, they're very oily, but one of the things is they ship them so quickly. Like a lot of time, and I buy coffee online constantly. And a lot of times you got to wait like 2-3 weeks. All of a sudden it shows up. You forgot you even ordered it. Great. Look, coffee's coffee. But when you need it, Beard Vet comes quickly. That 10% off is incredible. So what you need to do, go to beardvet.com, type in the promo code Godzilla. That's Godzilla, Godzilla. You get 10% off your coffee needs. And listen, if you have a beard, just like I do, you can get your beard tinctures there as well, Nate. I just went to the barber a while ago, got a little shaped up a little bit. And my next stop is Beard Vet, so I can kind of keep this thing from getting a little too unruly, which it often does, because just like you, we both have thick beards. We're always trying to maintain that stuff as well. So beardvet.com, put in the promo code Godzilla, beardvet.com, promo code Godzilla, 10% off coffee and beard tinctures today. We always want to thank Beard Vet, Sean and Kenny, for partnering with us. We love their support. Okay, so Nate.
Yeah.
Most important part of the segment and a huge update, Chan Cam. Where is our man Chan Kim this week?
Ooh, Chan Cam posted a top 10 last week at the BMW Pro-Am, which is good news for Chanimal fans. He's still kind of mired in 38th place in the Korn Ferry rankings, but he did move up 9 spots on the back of that T7. So, tough Sunday. He kind of almost had a chance if he didn't play, sort of mediocre on the weekend. He actually was kind of like right there. So, good result for Chanimal. He's got a week off as the U.S. Open proceeds. He didn't qualify for the U.S. Open. So, week off to rest and recharge, but playing good golf again.
It only takes a minute for the Chanimal to get hot. Right. So if you're on that DP World Tour hustle or the Korn Ferry Tour, which a lot of us are, and you're trying to look for a little bit of value, sometimes the Chanimal can really offer you some good value. However, not this week, because he hasn't been able to qualify for something like the US Open in quite a while. But whatever. Michael Block's here, so there we go. I was talking to a buddy the other day, huge Michael Block guy. He's like, oh, the story's just amazing. Guy's just a down-to-earth golfer. And I guess, on the backs of that PGA, he finished last in I don't know what the next tournament
Colonial.
Was. Yeah, the Colonial. So I'm done with Michael Block, and I think everybody else should be too. But I think, is he there at the US Open? I think he's at the US Open.
I don't think he is.
Oh.
I don't know.
Well, he'll be watching it with the rest of us then.
Yeah.
I can't guarantee if he is there, he's not going to be there Saturday. Not on a course like this. Let's talk a little bit, Nate, about the US Open.
Field.
So he's not in the field. Yeah,
not in the field. His son is, but he's not.
Okay, great. Legacy golfer there, Michael Block. So we'll see. Okay, Nate, let's talk a little bit about the US Open. Super excited for this. Absolutely packed field. Love when we get the LIV guys in here, because now all of a sudden makes things so weird. And of course, Brooks Koepka's win at the PGA makes this even better. Before we do this, we got to talk about the Los Angeles Country Club. This is a quirky course that has not hosted a PGA event, I don't think, ever. Certainly not since the reconstruction or the renovation in 2016 or 2017. They hosted an event maybe in the 70s, maybe another one in the 40s. This isn't a place where the PGA is used to going, and it is a weird course. Set us up here. What's it like? Why is this course so weird?
Yeah, so it's weird because it's right in the middle of LA, and it sits on 300 acres of land that's probably worth billions of dollars. They're famously private, and you're right. They've never really hosted. The last time they hosted a major was 1940. They hosted the PGA. The last time that that the LA area hosted the US Open was 1948 at the US Open. So things were different then. They haven't really hosted a major since the Germans invaded France. So it's been a while, but they finally kind of started renovating around 2011, sometime around there. And they've hosted a couple tournaments sort of in recent memory, smaller tournaments. They hosted the Pac-12 Conference Championship, which was won by Max Homa, who sort of famously now shot a 61 and set the course record. And then again, they hosted the Walker Cup, which is amateur team event between America and Europe. In 2017, of which, Colin Morikawa, Scotty Scheffler, and Matt McNeely were the sort of notable American members of that Walker Cup team. So, they've hosted a couple recently. So there's some guys that have seen it. I guess the sort of major thing that everyone's sort of talking about is, the restoration, right? I mean, Gil Hanse has just been on a ridiculous roll in terms of major renovations. He renovated Winged Foot, which had the 2020 US Open, Southern Hills, which had the 2022 PGA, Country Club of Brookline 2022 US Open. He's got a few more on deck, Marion, Oakland Hills, Olympic Club. So he's been like hot lately, sort of renovating these courses. So what it sounds like from just sort of in terms of how it's going to play is it sounds like it's going to be firm and fast, typical US Open. It's long, sort of typical US Open at this point. It's par 70, 7,400 yards. The fairways are wider than normal. The fairways look and seem to be, based on everything that I've read, heard, whatever.
Augusta National
length width, which is pretty generous, especially for US Open, where they're typically like a hallway. And the greens are decent size, but really weird shapes. Kind of like oblong, sort of stretching around bunkers, like weird stuff. So the greens are going to be challenging to hit, not necessarily because they're the smallest greens in the world, but just because they're really weird shapes.
And now what's going on with some of the length? Because there's two things I want to talk about. One is this is a long course, but it might play fast, which shortens it. And then also the designations. There's a long par 3, there's a short par 4 or something. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so it's long. I mean, 7,400 yards for a par 70, with 5 par 3s is a really long course. I mean, like, I think 8 out of the 10 par 4s are going to be 480 yards or longer. So really long. The par 5s are relatively reachable. They're not like overly long. You don't have any of those like behemoth, like 650 yard par 5s. They're relatively reachable, but there's only 3 of them. And then the par 3s range anywhere from 290 yards to one that'll play, I think it's 11th hole, will play as short as maybe like 92 is where they can move the tee box. And it'll probably play somewhere around 120 for most of the tournament. So
how the hell do you have a 290 yard par 3?
Well, then they have like a 310 yard par 4 that plays downhill. So it effectively plays about 290.
I don't understand that. Why is that not just a par 4 designation?
To make it tough. I mean, it's the USGA, man. They love to do weird stuff. I think that it's just like there's been this like fad, and they call it like it's been a fad in sort of like setting up majors. And the term that gets thrown around is sort of like half par holes, right? So like the short par 4 that plays 290 is like actually a par 3.5, and the like really long par 3 is actually sort of like a par 3.5. Like they love this sort of like idea that you're not going to make necessarily that par maybe isn't necessarily like a good or bad score on a hole. It can be either.
Yeah, sure. I mean, okay, great. It just, from a casual viewer, which I'm not, but from a casual viewer's perspective, I would just be looking at that going like, there should just be like a yardage cutoff. I mean, it should just be like if it's more than 250 yards, then it can't be a par 3. But I mean, look, these guys bomb. I mean, they can reach the green at 290. They just have to get a different club. It's not like that big a deal. I couldn't reach the green in 290 if you gave me, I mean, a cannon. Like if I shot the golf ball out of a cannon, I wouldn't be able to reach the green. So it would do what it always does, which is go into the trees to the left. So I don't know. We'll see. Weird course, quirky course, Bermuda grass all over the place, bent grass greens. Also, that's also sort of an odd choice. Rough doesn't seem to be a huge issue. Big fairways, not a ton of trees. Canyons, the Barrancas are going actually. They're actually going to be an issue.
No water though.
No water at all. But I mean, I guess the Barrancas kind of
count as a hazard
substitute for, it's definitely a hazard and basically water. I mean, you can put water in them, I guess. So it's going to be a difficult course comps. I mean, if we're just looking at stuff from this year, like just tournament comps, I mean, the Honda is a good one because it's difficult. The PGA is a good one because it's difficult. You just want, if you're looking for some of these guys, you want them to be doing well on very difficult courses. If anyone gets to 10 under, I'm going to be shocked. I had last week anywhere from 20 to 23 under. The winning score was 17 under. And some of the guys kind of cooled off a little later on Sunday. I mean, and actually on Thursday, it didn't go as low as I thought it would because everybody's kind of feeling it out. The cut line of this is going to be weird. You're going to, if you can survive those first 2 days and just make the cut, you can probably make your move if you need to. Nobody's going to be out of it after 2 days. So I don't know. What are you prioritizing as far as statistics goes? I have a number of things I'm prioritizing.
I mean, I think that by the looks of it and by the sort of sounds of the interviews that we've heard, and players are typically pretty frank in these sort of pre-tournament pressers with like what they think about the golf course. What it sounds like to me is for a long time, the USGA kind of does this thing where they just swing a pendulum back and forth. And sometimes they sort of make courses like almost too long where like you really can't win unless you're like, really just sort of like a bomber.
Right. Like when Bryson won.
Yeah. Like when Bryson won, some of the ones that Brooks won, or sort of like ones, like some of those courses were just like so hard that like you just really couldn't do it unless you were just really long off the tee. Because they were so narrow that like nobody hit fairways at Shinnecock. So like those sorts of things. But now it feels like they've sort of swung the pendulum back around and they've sort of really been trying to make it more accessible for guys that don't hit it necessarily like as far as Brooks or as far as Bryson or, whatever. Matt Fitzpatrick is by no means short now, even though he's like not a huge guy. But like, Brookline was kind of a course that was open to a lot of guys. This feels the same, even though it's really, really long. It feels like just based on sort of where they need to be, placement off the tee is going to be really important, having sort of the correct angle into greens because these greens are such weird shapes. There's a lot of dog legs. It sounds like it's going to, be accessible to a guy that's sort of more precision over power, and they sort of have balanced it so that, it opens it up to a lot more guys. So that being said, I don't necessarily need a guy that's like excessively long off the tee when I'm sort of handicapping this. I think that strokes gained sort of tee to green is important. I think that strokes gained on approach is probably more important. And then if you want to sort of really get into the nitty gritty of it, I think approach between 175 and 250. So all those 25-yard chunks, 175, 200, 200, 225 are going to be important. And par three scoring. I think it's going to be important. I mean, there's 5 par threes. I mean, you have to play well on them. So guys that play well on those are sort of ones that sort of catch my eye as well.
Yeah, we're absolutely in the same boat here. I actually think that you can think about this as like links golf a little bit because of the way that the hills and the fairways are going to run. So even though it's a par 70, 7,400 yards, if you can hit the fairways and be accurate, the ball will run a little bit. It'll shorten up the course for you. You don't have to absolutely mash it off the tee. But it's not going to run as much if you hit it into the Bermuda rough. Strokes gain tee to green for me is really important. Driving accuracy percentage, not strokes gains off the tee, but driving accuracy percentage. That's what got me that to Aaron Rye that last week. I'm with you on approach. I'm also with you on approach over 200 yards. Because there's just going to be a lot of approach shots over 200 yards. Par 3 average, I'm also on. So I like the par 3 scoring. Bogey avoidance, hard course, got to avoid bogeys. And then I'm always on the putting surface. So strokes gained, putting bent grass is important. I don't have anyone on my card who loses strokes on bent grass, which I think is going to be important. And it's one of the reasons why I'm not all over Scotty Scheffler this week. So let's get to our driver. This is our what's in our bag. We'll spend a little bit of time on the driver here. Driver are the heavy favorites. Now, weird outright field here, but this is basically what I'm going to say is for the driver and iron, which is the next category. You can kind of mix and match if you want, because the market is moving a lot on DraftKings or other boards for the outrights. Scotty is now 6.5 to 1 on DraftKings. He was 7 to 1 last night. There's a huge gap. So Victor Hovland rounds out the under 20 to 1 guys at 18 to 1. And then it jumps to 30 to 1. So we got nobody in the 20 to 29 to 1 range, which is weird. But the numbers are just moving crazy. So as far as heavy favorites go, I mean, you can kind of go wherever you want. I've got one. And then my iron kind of is in the same price range. But we'll just start with you here. Let's just jump into the driver. Who's your heavy favorite?
I mean, so I ended up like betting a guy under 20 to 1. And he's since drifted to 30 to 1. So now I'm gonna save him for bet regret. But I mean, I think like looking at this, like it has to be Scotty. I mean, I know that the putter hasn't been good, but I just don't think he can be 147th in strokes gained putting forever. The ball striking numbers are just like shocking, like some of the greatest we've ever seen type stuff. The run of results since November, no finishes outside the top 12, let alone a miscut or anything like that. It's just nuts. So I mean, I don't know how you could bet against him. I look at data golf quite a bit for sort of building my card. And his win percentage over Rory McIlroy, who's the second sort of choice on their predictions, he's almost double. So like, that's just crazy. Like he's a little bit over 13% expected and Rory's 6.5%. So
That's crazy.
Like, and that's not even getting down, to cards of John Rahm, Xander Schauffele, Patrick Cantlay, all of whom he's like more than 2 times better than. So it's just nuts. Like it's really crazy how much better he is from like a statistical perspective, even like even when you're like sort of side by siding him with other elite players.
Yeah, it's Tiger level elite in everything but the putting.
Mhm.
And if he was even, I think, 80th in strokes gained putting, he'd be winning every tournament.
Yeah, I mean, if he was just average, he would be having a Tiger like year, like where like you're just like, oh, he's 4 to 1 now in a major.
He's 650 to 1, so he's so
Right.
close to that. He's minus 140 for a top 10, I believe. Yeah, minus 140 for a top 10.
Which just feels like automatic
before.
money.
Yeah, like I want to take that. I mean, I'm not in a state where I can do outrights, but if you're building a DFS card, he's expensive for a reason, but you might just want to consider taking him anyway. Not only that, he's played this course post restoration and played it well, of course, because he's Scotty. So he also is going to have a feel for this. He's going to be up there on Thursday. He's not going to have to figure this out. He's already played it. Same thing with possibly the other two. But yeah, I mean, it's not a bad bet. Rahm's not a bad bet either, although he hasn't been playing nearly as well as Scotty has. So if you're looking at the 10 unders, I'd be more inclined to take Scotty just because he's been a little bit more consistent, though John Rahm, of course, can win any tournament. Brooks is 12 to 1. Everybody's on Brooks this week because it's a long course and he's like just a major beast, and you can't count him out. Then you got Rory at 14 to 1, which I don't like as much. And then Cantlay at 16 to 1, which I don't know. I mean, I'd probably take a top 5 on Cantlay, plus 350. That feels better. Then Xander at 18 to 1 and Victor at 18 to 1. So for my driver, I'm going with Victor Hovland. I think actually Victor Hovland, other than Scotty, has been playing the best golf on tour this year. And I absolutely think he's been the hottest golfer on tour in the last about month or two. And I'm riding that hot streak as he's coming off a first place playoff finish at the Memorial. And in all the numbers that I'm looking at, I just love that on DFS, I can get him at $10,000 and I can get him at 18 to 1 when I honestly think maybe he should be like 11 to 1. Strokes gained tee to green, he's 11th. Strokes gained approach, he's 10th. Strokes gained over 200 yards, he's 8th. Par 3 average, he's 10th. Bogey avoidance, 25th. Strokes gained putting on bent grass, he's 0.899. So he's almost gaining a stroke on bent grass as well. He's a little worse on other surfaces, so that's why it's important to know the grass. The performance in the majors has been nuts. Now we talked about the Memorial, but I mean, PGA T2, Masters T7, Players T3. I think he's an automatic T10 or automatic top 10 or top 5, but I like him at 18 to 1 as why. This is my favorite play. I mean, I don't understand why he's 18 to 1.
Yeah, I mean, nobody gives Hovland credit, I think, is like kind of the big thing. And like, his major record is excellent. They should be giving him credit for sure. I think that everyone, at least like people that sort of pay a lot of attention to this, are always worried about his short game just being like horrible. And I've seen a lot of touts, not necessarily that I agree with this actually take, but it is a thing where people are saying like short game is going to be really important this week. I don't really think it will be
like around the green.
Yeah, like around the green, and he's just so bad. I think that's always like the one thing people worry about with Hav.
Yeah, but I mean, to me, the approach numbers at 200 yards kind of erase some of that, because I think
100%.
in a long course like this, he can just, I mean, he can basically, he can find himself on a greens and regulation after his approach shot. Like, unless he just loses it and ends up kind of 80 yards out and then starts to struggle. But like, Nate, to me, it's like, okay, well, Scotty's putting then should also be a concern. Like, if we're just taking one aspect of someone's elite game, these are the best golfers in the world, and saying automatic disqualification, then you got to get rid of Scotty too, which nobody's doing.
Right. No, I mean, I agree with you. I think Alton's a fine play. I'm totally good with that.
Yeah, I like him at 18-1, you know, and I don't like these other guys. I mean, you know, I hate that we're never on Cantlay, but he's just, I don't know. He's like boring, I think. All he does is play good golf, but I wish I could get excited about a 16-1 for Cantlay. And he's not winning. I mean, that's the other thing. Like with the US Open, a difficult course like this, I kind of want guys who have won this year. I've got a couple of them on my card. Not all of them, but I got some. A couple of these guys who have won. So, you know, we'll see. Either way, I'm going to sleep well at night knowing that I've got Hovland in the bag at 18-1. Nate, one of the reasons that I sleep so well at night is because of MyPillow. Some of the most incredible products on the market for pillow technology come from MyPillow. You go to mypillow.com and you type in the promo code FUN. That's fun. FUN. Easy promo code. Easiest promo code I think I've ever heard. Promo code FUN. mypillow.com, promo code FUN. Up to 80% off on all of your pillow technology. Now listen, here's the crazy thing about MyPillow. And I didn't know this until my father, the Godzilla of truth, the craziest man in the East Coast, started just sending me tons of MyPillow products, towels, slippers, sheets. I mean, any household need you have, MyPillow's got it. And the 80% off is no joke. I bought a pillow on there with the promo code FUN not too long ago, and it was just an incredible purchase. And I got like, something like 60-70% off on an incredible pillow. It's the only pillows I use. It's the only slippers I use. I got them on right now, hanging out at my house in the summer here. Go to mypillow.com, type in that promo code FUN. Promo code FUN. Easiest promo code I've ever heard. Promo code FUN. mypillow.com. All of your pillow needs, up to 80% off with that promo code. So go ahead and type it in right now. Okay, Nate, let's go ahead and go to the irons. My iron is a little sneaky because he's actually more of a favorite, and I know who your iron is. I'll take a guess. You said he dropped from like 18-1, 20-1 to 30, 35-1, something like that.
Yeah.
It's got to be Tony Finau.
No, actually, Finau is my iron, but my bet regret is the one that like really just like I got like the worst of it on. Finau, I'm okay with getting 40-1. Okay,
let's hold off then. Go ahead with Finau.
All right, so Finau is my iron. You know, he's a guy I'm on a lot. And mostly I'm just on him because the ball striking numbers just sort of jump off the page to me. He does everything that I want him to do well. I mean, he's fourth in strokes gained tee to green, he's fifth in approach. His short game is good. You know, he's 32nd. He's plenty long enough for this golf course. That's like not really like, if anything, his driving distance numbers are depressed just because he doesn't really try and hit it that far a lot. So he's my iron. I think 40-1 is reasonable for Tony. I mean, and part of this is at the beginning of the season, I usually sit down and I'm like, all right, I'm just betting these guys for every major. And last year, my strategy was like basically bet Scotty Scheffler and Cam Smith for every major, and they won. Both of them won a major. My strategy this year, my two guys were Tony Finau and Max Homa. Bet them both of the Masters, both of the PGA. Already have tickets on them for the Open, and was sitting here staring at my odds and was like, I can't live with myself if this is the time. So I just bet both of them. I like him here. I mean, he hasn't been playing very well lately. The results since he won in Mexico about a month ago haven't been awesome. But I'm kind of, you know, he's played 3 tournaments, made 2 cuts. Neither of them were particularly like he was in the hunt, but he just putted horribly for 3 weeks in a row. I think maybe some of that could have been fatigue. He plays all the time. He's had a couple weeks off now. his putting numbers like are still pretty decent just based on how his season has been overall. So I'm willing more to look at this as sort of a blip than like a pattern emerging of him just putting like trash for the rest of the season. I think this was maybe just a couple bad weeks. So I'm riding with Tony Finau. At some point, he's going to win one. He has top fives in every major. At some point, he will win. And at some point, it'll be soon. I just don't know when it'll be. So I'll just be hammering Tony Finau from now until we win one.
Yeah, absolutely. Max Homa's not a bad bet either. West Coast guy, loves playing in California. Problem with Max is he's not been playing well lately. Really started out hot at the beginning of the year and has dropped off some as well. Tony, I think always solid, plays well in majors. He's been playing well. Like you said, as long as he gets the putting back, which he probably will. And he's good on hard courses. Like Tony Finau is an incredible golfer and he's great off the tee, which is always going to be pretty good. My iron here, and it's in the same price range as Victor Hovland, is Xander Schauffele, 18-1 as well. It went a little low for the iron this week. Iron is that old reliable, and I just don't think you can get more reliable than Schauffele at times, especially on a course like this, which I think is really just absolutely made for someone like Xander. Now, the biggest thing to me with Xander, 18-1 here, is fourth. He's fourth in total strokes gained. So, I mean, sometimes I feel like if it were me, I like to find whoever's in the top 5 in total strokes gained, but isn't the 1 through 5, especially in a major, in the price range. And Xander's a little outside that, but he's top 5 total strokes gained. So, I mean, he's just an incredible golfer, as we all know. Tee to green, he's 8th. Driving accuracy percentage, he's 111th. So that's where he kind of will struggle this week. And that will hurt him because there's a lot of blind spots here. There's a lot of dog legs, like a lot of issue. Like if you can't hit the fairways, you're going to have a hard time just even seeing the green, and you're going to have to be a little bit more creative. And that's not really Xander's game. It's not like Spieth, who can, who kind of lives and dies by that, but he's still one of the greatest golfers in the game right now. 6th in strokes gained approach, strokes gained over 200 yards. He's 102nd. So again, that's because the fairway accuracy is not that good, or the driving accuracy. So like if your driving accuracy isn't good, it's going to be difficult for you to have good approach numbers outside 200 yards, because you're just like digging your ball out of the rough. Par 3 average 78th, bogey avoidance 12th, and then bent grass, putting on burnt grass 0.630. So he's still gaining that, and he's just had an incredible season. I mean, maybe a little like not as hot lately. Memorial T24, PGA T18, but still, I mean, that's not like T50. Wells Fargo, he placed 2nd. RBC Heritage was 4th. Masters T10, Players T19. I think he's a lock for T20 this week. 8 top 10s this year. So playing incredible golf, extremely reliable. I have no problem taking both Victor and Xander at 18-1.
Yeah, I mean, he seems to save his best golf for the big tournaments too, and that's certainly been sort of evident in his career. Even like before he was sort of a household name, he sort of like burst onto the scene in 2017 with that tie for 5th, and he's just been like really good in the majors ever since. I mean, at some point it'll happen for him for sure. I mean, he hasn't finished outside the top 20 in a major since last year's Masters, so
yeah,
he's got a pretty good run.
I have one more iron, I think. I mean, you could maybe put him in your wedge, but everybody who I have is, the wedge is not a good category. For usually we play with the wedge. We say, okay, well, the wedge is the guy who we love but never wins. And everybody I have on my card this week wins tournaments except for my long shot. But I have another iron that I really like, and that is Jason Day.
Okay.
Who is 50-1, which is crazy for a guy who won a tournament this year. I love that 50-1. So Jason Day, 50-1. He's got 7 top 10s. He's missed 5 cuts. So he's, he plays like a guy kind of getting older. I think that's the best way I could put it. He is getting older, but like, some of these guys, when they're younger and they're feeling it, like they just don't miss cuts really. I mean, you see that with Sahith. He never misses a cut.
Right.
But the older guys, I mean, sometimes they're just tired, I guess. I don't know what it's like playing golf at that level at about my age or a little bit older, but 7 top 10s, 2 cuts. So I think I love the odds here at 50-1 because I think you're getting those because he got cut at the PGA and cut at the Memorial, but he won the AT&T Byron Nelson, T39 at the Masters, T19 at the Players. I just think this is a course for him. Driving accuracy is 44th. Strokes gained approach, he's 25th. Strokes gained tee to green is 13th. Par 3 average is 89th. Bogey avoidance, he's 2nd. So I love that. Jason Day is just like a master at like minimizing the damage. And this is a course where some of these guys are going to blow up. Like one of the reasons Tiro's not on my card is because I can't fathom Tiro having 4 days where there's one day where he doesn't just throw his clubs into the canyon. So, I want guys who kind of minimize damage, and that's what he does. And then putting on bent grass, he's still gaining strokes, 0.380. So I got 2 for you there. I really like Jason, really like Xander.
Yeah, I mean, while we're giving bonus picks, this isn't one I researched, but it's one I just like. I don't even think I need to research it because I just sit here and just stare at the number all the time. Is Justin Thomas, right? My guy JT. I mean, I've been talking about this. It's like he's gone from 28-1 when they opened to now he's 50-1, and I just keep sitting there thinking, like, how much longer is he going to get before I finally just can't like resist the urge to bet Justin Thomas? I mean, this is like 100%. The sweet spot range that I bet him. I just wish he had any sort of form that I could sort of like attach some glimmer of hope to. But I can't. But this is usually the range that I love him. But I just haven't been able to pull the trigger yet.
50-1. He's never 50-1.
I know, like even like usually like my sort of like median for him is like if I can get him like around 35, then I'm like, then it's just like auto, just boom. And I don't know why I'm having such a hard time with 50. It just seems like he's just not there. I don't know.
He's just
making a lot of club changes. I read like a whole article about all these club changes he's making this week to try and, tweak some things. I don't know. He just doesn't look like a guy that's like comfortable with this game. And the US Open, I don't think is a place you go get comfortable, but damn, 50-1. I mean, looks good.
Put $5 on it. You know what I mean? Like he's just always worth it. A lot of these guys down here in that area. I mean, some really good ones, Hideki Matsuyama is 45-1. Shane Lowry 60-1. And to be honest with you, a guy who plays like links golf really well, someone like Shane who plays all the time and his game looks pretty good.
And is really creative. This is a course that everyone keeps saying like you have to be creative to win. Shape it both ways, that sort of thing.
Yeah. So there's a lot of good price there. Okay, let's move then to the wedge. We got some more picks we got to get through here. The wedge is the guy who you just love to bet. Maybe doesn't always win. I actually have a guy who I don't know if he's won on tour this year, but I'm telling you, man, he's going to. We can do mine first, then yours.
Okay.
Justin Rose. I know you're all over Justin last week.
Oh God.
Okay, 45-1. I wish I was getting if I could do outrights, which I can't in Mississippi. I have to do DFS, which is fine. I love doing DFS, but I think if I was doing outrights, I'd like 55-1 a little bit more. But he's been playing so well, and then he had the top 10 finish last week. And I think this is a course that really suits him. The guy, I mean, Justin Rose is an accurate golfer. And he's long too. It's not like he sucks off the tee. 24th in drive. Yeah. 24th in driving accuracy percentage. Strokes gained tee to green 19th. Strokes gained approach 13th. Over 200 yards approach 14th. Par 3 average 10th. I think that's going to really come into play here. And he's a guy who doesn't get intimidated by a weird par 3. Bogey avoidance 20th, and putting on bent grass 0.502. 5 top 10s, 3 missed cuts, RBC 8th. That's the Canadian RBC. That was last weekend. Charles Schwab T12, PGA Championship T9, RBC Heritage T25, Masters T16, Players T6. So 2 top 10s and 3 majors. That's enough for me at 45-1. I mean, just to me, it's like, and then on DFS, which I'll post my DFS article to kind of give you a good idea of what that is. But on DFS, he's 7,700, which is like not pricey at all for a guy who's got 2 top 10s. Because, with DFS, it's a little different. Like, you don't need these guys to win. You just need them to make the cut and play well on Saturday and Sunday. So you can kind of climb up the rankings. Okay, so love Justin Rose. I also have an incredible bet and regret that you're going to love.
Okay.
Who's your wedge?
My wedge, this is a guy that used to be an auto bet for me about 4 years ago to win a major. Care to take a guess? 4 or 5 years ago, I was just locked in on this guy. I thought he is for sure going to win one soon, and his game went in the toilet, and I haven't bet on him in a long time.
Huh. That's tricky. Let me just look.
We've talked about his resurgence.
Yeah, well, hold on. Because there's always like it's not Fleetwood, which you bet all the time.
He's the same odds as your boy Jason Day.
Okay, well that really helps. Let me find Day. Oh, it's gotta be a Tricky Ricky.
Gotta be Slick Rick. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm all over Fowler. I mean, I got 50 to 1, and like that felt awesome. Like I am William Hill has like the biggest hold in golf betting in the world. The odds are always just shit. I mean, they're never anything compared to FanDuel, DraftKings. I always get trash odds compared to like all these other books. And I mean, Ricky just drifted up to 50 when I was like kind of looking at the show earlier. He was 45. So he just drifted up in the last like 30 minutes that we've been talking. I think 50 to 1's a great price for Ricky. I mean, he's been nothing but good this year. Like I think that this is a time for him. I mean, like the numbers are through the roof on Ricky. He's excellent ball striking wise. I mean, the swing is back and dialed with Butch back at the helm. I mean, he's 8th in strokes gained approach. He's 12th tee to green. He's 50th in putting. But I mean, that could turn around at any moment. His putting just sort of went with the rest of his game, and it's sort of slowly coming back. It used to be a strength. I mean, he just does everything like pretty well.
Yeah, dude's an elite putter.
Yeah. So, and like, the biggest thing is he's 3rd in par 3 scoring average too. He actually averages under par playing par 3s. So from that perspective, for a guy who's 11th in scoring average and is 11th in strokes gained total, like 50 to 1 just seems like off to me. He's certainly not the 11th best player on that odds board, as reflected by DraftKings. So it just feels like a mispriced to me. I don't see 50 to 1. I think he's a lot better than that. So I like Ricky. I mean, he's gonna pop one at some point. Wouldn't it just be nuts if it was a major? Like the major that like we probably didn't think he could win 5 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, that's the problem. So he comes up all the time in courses where an elevated event or something, but people don't think he can win majors. So that's why you don't see him on anyone's card. So, we'll see.
The results have been so good this season though.
Yeah. He's been playing the best golf of his career basically. So,
I mean, yeah. T9, T6 his last 2 tournaments. I mean, come on.
Yeah. I think a top 10. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we'll see. He's one who he's playing some of the best golf of his career in the last couple of years, or this year, really. He's sort of struggled in the last couple of years. So really this year he's turned it around. You're right. He's back with Butch. And I'm telling you, strokes gained putting at 50. I mean, he can shoot up to 25 in one tournament. That's how good he is with a flat stick. So not a bad bet at all.
And he's a West Coast guy. He's one of those guys that's always sort of played his best golf out West, I guess, which, should be noted.
Oh, it absolutely should. That's a real thing. Yeah, that's a real thing. And they haven't been to the West Coast since January or February. So, they've been on the East Coast and in the Midwest and in Texas. They have not been out the West Coast lately. So you're right. Okay, so we'll get to our bet and regret and our long shot in a minute here. Our bet and regret is our putter. Our long shot is our hybrid. But first, Nate, we have to thank Patrick and company at targettrading.co. Listen, we talked a little bit earlier about Birch Gold. You have to diversify in precious metals. That's absolutely true. But if you're in the stock market, you need to be trading futures. And you cannot be trading futures blindly. This isn't something you can do without an education. It's just too complicated. I can go on to my Ameritrade account, Nate, at any point and, Google or research some stocks, different fiber optic stuff that I like, lithium mines, the blue chippers, the Apples, the Disneys. And I could buy those stocks and hold on to them for a long time and they'll appreciate. But if you're trying to trade futures, you absolutely cannot do that without an education. And if you're looking for an education, you have to go to Target Trading Academy. TargetTradingAcademy.co or TargetTrading.co, TargetTradingAcademy.com. TargetTrading.co is the premier trading education company in the game. So if you're interested, I want you to go to www.targettradingacademy.com so that you can just sign up for a free virtual campus tour. You can see Patrick and company in action. Listen, they've been doing this for 15 years, and they've developed the most successful, the most respectable, and most importantly, the most repeatable trading strategies and methods. If you're ready to start, go to targettrading.co. That's targettrading.co, and unlock your financial freedom today. You can call 888-203-3731. That's 888-203-3731, or go to targettrading.co. We all want to be our own boss, and nobody knows how to do that better than Patrick and co at Target Trading. So we want to thank them. Okay. Bet in regret time, Nate.
Yeah.
I'd like to go first because I have one that I'm just like, I think if I had the opportunity to take this back, I would. It's a LIV guy, and it's not Brooks. It's not Dustin. It's not Patrick Reed, which some people are on for some stupid reason.
Bryson.
Bryson, baby.
Gotta be Bryson.
Bomb and gouge. You got to have at least one guy who just smashes it off the tee. Now, he won a US Open before. I have no statistics on him. I hate LIV so much that I can't get a stupid, I can't get anything. I can't get no strokes gained, nothing. I mean, I suppose I could go to the LIV Golf website, but I have no idea if that's going to download 75 viruses onto my computer. So I'm not going on there. So I'm just stuck. I'm in the dark, which is why it's my bet and regret.
Yeah.
But he tied for 4th at the PGA.
Yeah, he played good.
Yeah, and he hits it well off the tee. You can't discount these LIV guys at all.
Right.
I'm just, Brooks is the trendier pick, but I don't know. Bryson plays good golf all the time. That's all I have. I can't give you anything more. He's a bomb and gouge. He's pretty accurate off the tee, and he likes to play in majors. And he played well at the PGA, which is a difficult course. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, he's not like a guy that I'm rushing to bet, but yeah, I mean, and I kind of understand the regret, but I don't know if he's that bad of a play.
Well, I hope not. He's 50-1 or something, 45-1, something like that.
If I could just refund my bet right now, I would. It's so stupid of me, and I don't know why I did this. I just I got such bad FOMO that I just I bet this number and I hate it. And I didn't bet another number that's now gone forever. So my bet regret is 2-part. The one I bet, Max Homa, I bet at 18-1. He has since moved to 35-1.
Yeah, great.
I thought, so I just gave up basically double my value. My thought was, oh my God, the Southern California narrative, people are going to be betting him like crazy, and he's going to go off at 14 because everyone's going to be like, oh, he holds the course record, blah, blah, Max Homa, California God, yada, yada, yada. And then nobody's really bet him. He just hasn't really had that much action on him. Yeah, so he's drifted way up. He doesn't suck though. That's the thing. He's not had that, he was tied for 9th in his last tournament, the Charles Schwab. He made the cut at the PGA and finished lower down. And then he was tied for 8th at the Wells Fargo the week before that. He's been fine. And it's 2 starts in California where he basically wins the Farmers, goes to the Phoenix Open, plays tie for 39th. So he leaves California for a week, plays mediocre. Then he goes back to California the week after and finishes 2nd place at the Genesis. So, his 2 tournaments in Southern California this year are a win and a second. So from that perspective, I'm maybe he just finds it there, maybe. And the approach numbers are still good enough to give me hope. I mean, he's 12th in strokes gained approach. He's 5th in strokes gained putting. When he struggled briefly, it was just kind of his whole game fell apart, and then he sort of just refound it again at the Wells Fargo. So I don't know. I just wish I had waited and been patient for the market to sort of drift him up. And the one that I hate myself for is, we were texting about this last week on Thursday or Friday when Tyrrell Hatton had a good day on Friday. And it was oh,
yeah,
Tyrrell Hatton's 55-1 right now to win the US Open. And I'm I should probably bet that. And then I watched it, and then after Sunday, it was 40-1, and now it's
30-1.
30-1. So that's another one where I gave up like basically like double if like I wanted to bet him, but I just sort of like mistiming it because I'm a moron. So like now I'm not betting on Hatton, who's been playing good, and I have my money on Homa just because I had like fear of missing out on his like first major victory, because that's just who I am. And I just wouldn't be able to live with myself. So I have like the worst possible number on Max Homa, for no reason other than just pure emotion.
Homa's not a horrible pick. I mean, the Southern California stuff is real, and you're right. He's been playing better than I think people think.
Yeah, I mean, he missed two cuts, but one of them was a
major.
team event, and one of them was a week after the Masters, like, you know, in an elevated event. That's not really like, but so I don't know. I mean, the results are fine. They're just not like elite or eye popping. He just sort of sneaks into the top 10. So
yeah. All right. I don't know. I'm not a Hatton fan this week. I think the course is too frustrating for him. I think he's going to be exhausted, but he has been playing incredible golf.
God, he's been playing so much though. At some point, he's got to start to feel it.
That's what I'm thinking. And just going from Canada to here, I don't really like any of these guys that were kind of right around, other than Rose, that were kind of right around the Canadian Open, because it's just too hard. You got to get on a plane and then drive or fly to the West Coast. It's difficult, but I see where you're going. Okay, let's end it with our long shots. And I want to start with you because I actually think your long shot is like, we talked about this earlier, it's just way better than mine. I think this is like a legit long shot that everybody should be on. So why don't you go ahead and tell us about your long shot, then I'll do mine, then we'll end the show.
Yeah, well, we love Georgia Bulldogs on this show. It feels like we always have one.
Yes, we do.
Love dogs. So I got one. Sepp Straka. He's just been so sneaky under the radar good this year that at 250-1, which is what he's priced at on DraftKings right now, just feels like too much to me. I mean, like he finished tied for 7th at the PGA. He made the cut at the Masters, so he's 2 for 2 on made cuts. He's got a top 10 in a major this year. You know, he's coming off a tie for 16th of the Memorial where he played pretty decently. Charles Schwab, he's, you know, tie for 29. So the results are like, okay, but it's just like the numbers. When I looked at this course and was like, okay, so what's important? It's like, I think that approach is probably going to be the most important thing. And I think that driving accuracy is probably going to be the most important thing, not necessarily distance. It's like, he's 40th in driving accuracy and he's 9th in strokes gained approach. On the two sort of hardest courses we've seen this year, which is probably the PGA, he finished tied for 7th. The Honda's got to be up there. He's tied for 5th. He plays hard course as well. And he's a really good iron player. He's a good putter. He's 60th overall in putting, strokes gained. The real weakness is around the green, where he's 148th, but I just feel like people are making too much of that stat. This idea that, oh, everyone's going to miss the green, like, so short game is important, just feels sort of ridiculous to me because he's such a good iron player that he's just not going to be missing the green as often as a lot of guys with elite short games. So I just am willing to sort of discount that. And he's 250-1. There's always going to be some warts. If I had to give something away on this course, I think it would probably be distance and strokes gained around the green, which are basically his biggest deficiencies. He's long enough, as evidenced by, you know, finishing tied for 7th at the PGA, which wasn't like a cupcake course in terms of length. So I like Sepp at 250-1, man. Sepp Straka. I mean, why not?
Those two major performances are, I think, for someone 250-1. I mean, you just take that right there and say, okay, well, he's played well in 2 hard courses and 2 majors. So like, why not take him at 250-1? Of course there's going to be warts, and you're right. Those are probably the best warts to have. I think that's an incredible play. I'm glad you found it. And I think that you're going to be really happy with the results from Sepp this week. Mine is a guy who has just been kind of hovering around my radar. And his name is not Justin Suh, who has also been around my radar.
Oh, man. Justin Suh. Yeah, we talked about that before the show.
Yeah, at some point, we're going to have to give him some love because he's been playing really well. But I like Andrew Putnam, 300-1. Big long shot here. Again, pretty much everything. His approach game is pretty good. So he's driving accuracy is 28. Tee to green, he's 89th. So there's some warts there a little bit. Approach though, 32nd. Approach from 200 yards or more is 166. So he's not like a long guy, but 10th in par 3 average. So that to me is like a huge number for someone 300 to 1. Third in bogey avoidance. Those two right there. I mean, this is not like a 60 to 1 play. This is like huge. And then here's the big one, Nate. Putting on bent grass. Putnam's been a legend all season. 1.221 strokes gained on bent grass. So look, he's missed 5 cuts and he's got 4 top 10. So you have to live with that. Like there's a possibility he just doesn't make the cut. But if he does, T5 at the Memorial, T29 at Charles Schwab, missed the cut at the PGA, T24 at Mexico, 59 at RBC, T24 at the Valero, cut at the Players, didn't play the Masters. So the problem here is subpar performances at majors, strong performances at other courses, but the Memorial was an elevated event. And I think so was a Schwab, actually. Correct me if I'm wrong. So these, some of these tournaments he's playing well in are with strong field, some of them not so much. And he's trending upward. So I just like him. I like him on this course. And I think 300 to 1, like, why not throw $5 on it and see what happens.
Yeah.
Or take him top 20,
Yeah, I don't hate it. I mean, yeah, I think top 20 would be really good. I mean, if we're wrong and short game isn't actually an important stat, along with accuracy, then like he's going to be right there. My concern with him is he's not just like sort of average in distance. He's like well below average in distance of, a tour player. So if this course may prove to be a little bit too long for him, but if it does firm up and kind of level out the playing field in that way, I don't think Putnam's the worst play in the world for a top 20.
I think that he can minimize the damage and take advantage of some of the birdie opportunities of the par 3s a little bit better. I mean, that's why his par 3 scoring average is so high. So I don't know. We'll see. I just need him to make the cut and then hang around. That's it.
Yeah.
Not asking for a miracle here. I would love a miracle, but I'm not asking for one.
Yeah.
Any more plays you really like, Nate? Anyone you're just sort of thinking about?
I think we sort of, I've been thinking hard about JT. Like I said, I was thinking hard about Hatton, but now that opportunity's gone. For the deep long shots, we sort of briefly touched on it, but like Justin Suh is like a guy that we just keep seeing on leaderboards. Yeah. And then he kind of, fades on Saturday or Sunday, will be up there for a little while on Thursday, Friday, and then just kind of drift back. I mean, you sent me a text. It was either last week or the week before when you were like, when do we need to start taking Justin Suh seriously? And I think that, we're getting to that point. So, I think that there are worse plays to make than sort of looking at his prop markets, especially. He's plus 1,400 just to finish in the top 10. Top 20 is probably plus 6 something. So I don't hate him. Sahith's always intriguing, but he just feels a little bit too trendy to me. At sort of plus 11,000, 110 to 1. But those are kind of the only two that I've sort of really thought about. Siwoo, I guess, is a more reasonable one, but Siwoo also it just burned me so badly a couple weeks ago. I need a week off from Siwoo.
Yeah, take the week.
Yeah, we got to take some time apart.
Siwoo and Tom Kim have been kind of sexy on some different articles. I'm not on either of them this week. They've been burning me all season. I'm off Tom Kim too. So Sung Jae as well. Really all those guys. They've just been kind of they haven't performed the way that I think they're going to. The only one kind of the some of the Asian players that I really like is Hideki, just because his number is right and he's a stud. I think he can always win a major. Of course, we know that. So, okay, well, we'll see. This is a huge week for us. U.S. Open, major tournament. One more left after this, just the Open Championship over across the pond. So we want to thank everyone, Nate, for joining us for Clubhouse Picks today. This week's episode of Clubhouse Picks, as always, is brought to you by Godzilla Wins. Go to GodzillaWins.com. Find Nate's outright picks for the U.S. Open. He'll have that up soon. Find my DFS card for the U.S. Open. You can download Clubhouse Picks and listen to Clubhouse on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Please be sure to download, rate, and review if you like the show. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to smash that subscribe button. And Watch all of our videos. Godzilla Wins puts out a whole bunch of videos. We got our Saturday show as well. So don't forget to do that. Nate, where are we going to be next week?
Next week, we are going to be at the Travelers Championship in Cromwell, Connecticut, for a little bit of a birdie fest. So yeah, a little reprieve from the slog of the U.S. Open. So we'll be back to recap the U.S. Open and go to the Travelers.
Yeah, and you and I will be together this week in Texas, doing a little fishing, doing a little golfing. So maybe we'll do like a live reaction on Sunday night after the U.S. Open. If we are up to it, which we might not be, we might have to wait, but we'll see. You just never know. Could be a lot of fun. Exciting week for golf. We'll see everybody next week for the Travelers. As always, I'm Jack Fredericks. That's Nate Perry. Happy golfing.